everybody, and welcome to Full Range Wrestling Recap. I am your host, Most Valuable Pat, and today we are going to talk about Raw and Smackdown for the 25th and 26th of June of 2018. First, I want to try to give you guys a little bit of just a overall view of both shows. I figured I'd do that first. I know I've been doing that the last couple weeks, but I want to make it kind of an official say. Like, this is how I'm going to do it. So, overall, this week's shows were actually pretty decent. I didn't think they were going to be very good because it was in the middle of an in-between session between pay-per-views. But these ones were actually not bad. They had a couple of tag teams come out of nowhere. Well, not come out of nowhere, but come back. They had a new tag team form. They had a whole bunch of good matches on this weekend. A lot of rumors flying around. There's a whole lot about Big Cass. So if you're curious about why Big Cass got released, we got it all right here for you. I mean, if you've been reading up on it, you probably know it already why. But I think there's a few things that a lot of people probably wouldn't know. And, you know, they posted it on the Cage Side Seats on Rumor Mill. But in case you guys didn't read that, I will tell you guys myself what happened. So we'll get right down to it. First is Raw. And it started off with kind of a stupid announcement that five-man battle that they're going to have at the next pay-per-view to determine who's going to fight against Brock Lesnar was canceled because apparently something happened and they screwed around with Brock's contract. So he's not going to be back, I'm guessing, till SummerSlam, which I think is fucking stupid. I'm really sick and tired of just seeing him be part-time, being a champion of being part-time. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why they keep on having him at just the big pay-per-views and not every second or third one. I'd say even every third one. I think that would be perfect. Every third pay-per-view, defend his title, be there for 20 minutes, and then leave. I know he doesn't give a shit about WWE anymore. I know he doesn't care about, like, any of the things that are going on with WWE, period. But they're paying him a boatload of money. So why not just come back every third pay-per-view, defend the title, win or lose, and then be done? And if he doesn't want to come back, then why not just drop it and then give it to somebody else and make that title relevant again? That's what kind of annoys me. But the same thing happened last week where Kurt Angle was making an announcement and then Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns interrupted him and started talking about how they're going to be a champion and how they're going to win the match and blah, blah, blah. And they started talking shit back and forth. And then the Revival came out and challenged both of them to a match, which was a pretty good match. And Revival ended up beating them. I thought this was just like this whole thing with Revival was going to be like, let's just bury Revival for whatever reason. I think Revival is actually a pretty good tag team. And I thought this was just going to be like a Barry Revival type of thing. And it really wasn't. They're actually showcasing them pretty well. They're doing things very well with them. So kudos to them. And hopefully they get a nice little run after they're done with the whole Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns feud. Hopefully they start getting a run of the tag team championships. I know there's a lot of people in line, especially right now, to be tag team champions. I mean, it's the B team and Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, but hopefully Revival is in that area, and I want to see Authors of Pain also be in that lineup too. So there's a decent amount of tag teams on Raw now. B team, I would say, is not. I mean, they're not bad, I guess, but I mean, like, I wouldn't really put them as like a top-notch, high-quality team, and they're probably going to be, if they lose to Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt at the next pay-per-view, they're probably not going to last for very long after that. They're probably going to be like another Heath Slater and Rhino, which sucks, because both those guys are actually pretty decent wrestlers, so I don't really... And that skit that they did was actually really, really funny. Right after that match, they had a skit when Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt were out in the ring. They did another skit where Bo Dallas was impersonating Bray Wyatt, and then Curtis Axel was impersonating Matt Hardy, and it was actually really funny. But then they had a match between Curtis Axel and Matt Hardy. It was very short, but Curtis Axel did win the match. And then they had a thing where the Authors of Pain were coming back, and they finally had a match. And I guess their big deal that they weren't around was because of their visas or something like that, and that's why they haven't been around in a while. And there's another team right there that came from NXT that could be a dominant force in WWE. You know what I mean? And there's 3 teams that I think that can do that. That's Sanity, Authors of Pain, and the Bludgeon Brothers, and Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. Those are teams I think that could be like dominant teams, and if they fight against each other, I mean, just amazing. But they fought against a local group and they beat them. No big deal there. Then they had this whole thing with Alexa Bliss coming out and doing the same thing she did last week again. And they keep on repeating these things. Mickie James is like kissing her ass. And they keep on repeating these things over and over and over again. And it's extremely annoying how they do it. They just keep on having her come out thinking that Nia Jax is on like vacation and Ronda Rousey's gone, so I'm going to talk as much shit as I possibly can. And blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So then, for whatever reason, Natalya comes out and says, well, we're gonna have a match. So then it turns out that Natalya comes back and she has Nia Jax by her side. So her and Alexa Bliss have a match. And Natty actually ends up winning the match. She still can't do promos for shit, but it's all good. And then they had an announcement for an Intercontinental Championship match, and it's going to be Ziggler versus Seth Rollins again. And that was the match of the night. I'm telling you, I'll go over that in a few minutes, though. But after that, they had what I thought was the best part of the night. Not necessarily the best match, but the best part of the night was when the Riot Squad went against Ember Moon, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. The match was not the focal point. The Riot Squad won the match, again, because they pinned Sasha. Bayley got pissed and started attacking Sasha Banks, which I thought was amazing. Sasha Banks has been turning on Bayley, has been doing all this crap to her for the past few months, and finally she just got sick of it. I was so happy when I saw Bayley beat the crap out of her. It wasn't even funny. I'm not really a big fan of Sasha Banks, personally, but even outside the ring, I'm not really a big fan of hers. Because I see that she has a lot of attitude problems, and she thinks she's better than she actually is, which is not really something that I'm really a big fan of. That's kind of one of the reasons why Big Cass got released, because he has a big attitude problem. But we'll go over all that later on. And whenever they had after the Riot Squad match, after Bayley beat the crap out of Sasha Banks, they had No Way Jose, a.k.a. Adam Rose, versus Mojo Rawley. I'm not even going to talk about that match, because that match was freaking pathetic. And then they had Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor and Baron Corbin. And in case you missed that, I said Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor and Baron Corbin. So that was probably the match that I wanted to see, because I wanted to see how they actually coexisted together. Baron Corbin and Finn Balor end up fighting each other at the end of the match. And then Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens won by countout. But the funny part was that after the match, Kevin Owens was in the ring, and he goes and tries to shake the hand of Braun Strowman, and Braun starts chasing after him, and Kevin Owens runs to the back, hurries up, gets a suitcase, comes outside, and he tries to get the keys from the valet, and the valet says, I don't have your keys. He does. And they look over, and there's Braun Strowman standing there with his keys in his hand. And Braun Strowman's like, I hope you have insurance on your car, because that's what your car looks like now. And he looks over, and the car's flipped over. It was so funny. I mean, the way that they're using Braun Strowman is fantastic. He's a monster. He's a big dude who can dominate a lot of people, and they know it. But he's a funny guy outside the ring and backstage also. But he's also being really hilarious during this whole vendetta that he has with Kevin Owens. And of course, they're going to have a match at the next pay per view. It's probably going to be like a steel cage match or a Falls Count match or a DQ match or something like that. So we'll see how that works out. But then they had the match of the night. And the match of the night was Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins. And this match was absolutely fantastic. Both of them are just absolutely great wrestlers. And it was really something to see these two guys duke it out again. It was just, pins and kickouts over and over again, doing crazy moves, and it was just action-packed throughout the entire thing. McIntyre came out and interfered in the match, and then Seth Rollins won by disqualification. And they started beating the crap out of Seth Rollins, and then Roman Reigns came out and saved Seth Rollins' ass at the end of the night, which was pretty cool to see. But overall, that match was the best match of the week. I think. I don't think any other match even came close. There was supposed to be a Shinsuke versus Jeff Hardy match, but that didn't happen. I'll tell you why here in a few minutes. But that was by far the best match of the night, or best match of the week and night. So I think we might see one more match between Dolph and Seth, but hopefully they stop after that and they kind of just knock it off after that, and then have Dolph and Drew McIntyre try to go after the tag team championships after the B team loses, if they lose. But we'll just kind of see what happens. So that's going to be it for Raw. Let's go ahead and move over to SmackDown. All right, well, we'll move on to SmackDown here, and it started off with The Miz coming out for his TV show, and then having Luke Harper and Eric Rowan out as his guests on his show. Basically to thank them and kiss their ass that they let him beat Daniel Bryan. And finally Daniel Bryan came out and said, I want to take you guys on later on tonight. And they did, which was interesting, to say the least. But then the best thing of the week happened when that match happened. So Harper was going to go up against Daniel Bryan later on the night, which happened later on the night. And then they had the Rusev versus Xavier Woods match, and they're rumoring like crazy, like Big E's gonna get a push for something. I don't know if it's gonna be for the U.S. Championship or what, but I think we're gonna start seeing New Day being like individual matches instead of just his own instead of tag team matches. They might be in a couple tag team matches here and there, but I think they're gonna be in a majority are gonna be in singles matches. I think Big E's gonna get himself a nice little push. Hopefully he gets a good push. He deserves it. That's for sure. But Xavier Woods put up a good fight, but Rusev actually, he came out with it at the end. And I was kind of disappointed in this. I didn't know that Shinsuke got hurt on Monday or Sunday or Monday. And so they had to cancel the match between him and Jeff Hardy. So then Jeff Hardy had an open challenge, and Eric Young from Sanity came out and met the challenge. And this match was really good. I've never actually seen Eric Young wrestle before. And it was actually really a lot of fun to watch. And Eric Young gave him a good run for his money, but then Sandy came in and interrupted the match after Jeff Hardy was about to win. And the Usos came out and started shit with Sanity again. And I was really glad to see that they didn't just get their asses beat. So they teamed up with Jeff Hardy to go up against Sanity, all three members. And Jeff Hardy and the Usos actually won the match. It's nice to see that Sandy is mortal. I mean, they're both kind of nuts, but I mean, they're all three of them are nuts. But I mean, it's nice to see that they're actually like mortal. They can be beaten. Bludgeon Brothers, we haven't really seen them be beaten yet. I mean, we've seen them have good matches, but we haven't seen them be beaten yet. So Sandy, I thought was the same way. They were going to make them like this invincible force and stuff like that, and it was just going to be this big pain in the ass. But they didn't make it like that. They made it so that they're actually decent. And they're actually more, but they have good matches, but they're mortal. They can actually be beaten. And that's another tag team that I'm hoping that they get a big, ginormous push and they go after the Bludgeon Brothers at some point. I think that would be one of the best matches of tag team. That tag team I've seen from a tag team in a long time. If it was Sandy versus the Bludgeon Brothers, I think it'd be an amazing match to watch. But then they had Sonya Deville versus Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch ended up winning the match. And then they came out with James Ellsworth came out and started talking about his whole deal with Carmella and how he is not intimidated by Asuka and all that kind of crap. And Paige came out and started saying like, "Oh yeah, you wait until Asuka's not going to be in the not going to be in the building, so then you come out and start running your mouth. Well, you're going to have a match next week versus Asuka, and then Asuka's going to defend the championship again at Extreme Rules against Asuka. I think the one person that deserves to have that women's championship on SmackDown is Asuka, and I believe that she's going to earn it. Hopefully she does. And hopefully she gets it this time around. I mean, Carmella's had it enough. I don't even know where Carmella was this week. She wasn't even there. But I think that Asuka, more than anybody else in that locker room, deserves to have that championship for a while. And I mean for a while. 6 months, I'd say minimum, against different opponents. So, you know, I hope that happens at Extreme Rules, but we'll see what happens. But then they had, this is the best part of the night. They had Daniel Bryan come out and fight against Harper. And the match was going good, and they were having a solid match, and then, you know, Daniel Bryan puts him in the clutch, in the coquina clutch, and then Eric Rowan comes in and starts beating the crap out of Daniel Bryan. Well, guess who shows up? Kane shows up. Holy shit. You know what I mean? I haven't seen Kane on SmackDown, I don't think ever, but I haven't seen Kane in a long-ass time. And here he comes on SmackDown to save Daniel Bryan, and it's Team Hell No all over again. So I thought that Kane was going to turn on Daniel Bryan himself, but he helps Daniel Bryan out, and then he puts his arms out, and he tries to give him a hug, and Daniel Bryan hugs him, and everybody goes crazy, the crowd goes nuts. It was freaking cool. And then Paige comes out, and she says, oh, now we're going to have the Bludgeon Brothers defend their championships against you guys at Extreme Rules. So now it's going to be Team Hell No versus the Bludgeon Brothers for the Tag Team Championships at Extreme Rules. So that's pretty cool to see, and it's really neat, and I love it. Cool to see Team Hell No back. So we're just going to have to wait and see what's going on. But we'll see how good of a match they have, and we'll see what happens with them. So that's it for the SmackDown and Raw for the week. I do want to go into the rumor mill for the week. I have a few because a lot of these things talk about Big Cass. So I really wanted to go ahead and just talk about as many of these as I possibly can when it comes to Big Cass. So here we go, starting with rumors. A Paul Heyman promo on social media speculated rampant that perhaps Bobby Lashley will be Brock Lesnar's next title challenger. There have been rumors of a match between the two for a while. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Tyson Kidd and Fit Finlay are agents for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and Kidd was most responsible for its layout. Good for him. I like to see that he's actually doing something. For that matter, Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax rehearsed their match beforehand, and Finlay was the one who laid it out. Per the Observer, advances for Raw and SmackDown this week aren't strong, and MLW could be running a pay-per-view next month. WrestleVotes is saying WWE has presented Undertaker with a pitch for a match at SummerSlam, and it's something he wanted himself at some point. And according to the Observer, AJ Styles isn't scheduled for WWE shows over the weekend or SmackDown this week, and he wasn't on SmackDown because he's in Australia for promotional work. And this is kind of sad. This kind of sucks. But the Wrestling Observer newsletter notes Charlotte had surgery on June 19th, and she's out until the lead up for SummerSlam. So she'll be out until like August. And in other return notes, they also say that Alicia Fox was cleared June 18th. Jason Jordan is tentatively scheduled to be back in July. And Dean Ambrose has again been seen at the Performance Center working on his return. So that's good. We got Jason Jordan coming back soon, and also we got Dean Ambrose coming back soon, which is great. And also, PW Insider says that it was a late decision for William Regal not to go on the NXT TV tapings this week. He hasn't been around for a number of months now, so I wonder what happened with him. Here comes all the Big Cass stuff. So listen up if you're waiting to hear about what happened to Big Cass. WrestleVotes notes that Big Cass refused to rehearse a promo before doing it live on SmackDown, and this upset Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn, likely contributing to the decision to release him. According to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, independent promoters are already talking about trying to reunite Big Cass with Enzo Amore as Real One in the indie scene. The Observer notes that WWE has confirmed Ronda Rousey will be at Monday Night Raw in San Diego next week, though it doesn't necessarily mean she'll be on TV. She's been pulled from upcoming Raw advertising for shows in Boston and Buffalo, however. Per Dave Meltzer, WWE had made decisions about running a show in 2019 that would feature wrestlers from outside the company. Toni Storm, Rhea Ripley, Mia Nim, and Mercedes Martinez are apparently played in a clip for the next Mae Young Classic at this week's NXT TV tapings and are expected for the tournament. I know Tony Storm is, but I don't know who the rest of those people are. Sounds like Big Cass' release was the result of a multitude of issues. In addition to the accounts of being intoxicated in public mentioned here yesterday, Pro Wrestling Sheet says that they heard multiple times that he rubbed people the wrong way in a course of normal life in the road, such as an incident on a tour bus where he thought he was being ribbed, but he wasn't, and broke down the bathroom door. WrestleVotes said that they've learned Cass had voiced some frustration about creative differences over the past few months, which combined with the other stuff made his departure unsurprising. PW Insider said a fan sent him a report of arguing with producers at a house show in Waco after he spat on the front row. Wrestling Observer clarified the report that Big Cass was fired on Tuesday in a pre-Smackdown meeting to say that he was informed of his release privately and the roster told about it in that evening. Talk of a Big E singles push is again being on the rounds, and it appears New Day will operate as a stable of solo wrestlers more than a tag team for a while. Triple H teased a huge announcement on the women's wrestling coming very soon while doing his press in the UK. It's believed to be official confirmation of taping dates and talent for the second Mae Young Classic. I watched last year's and I wanted to see Kairi Sane win that championship or win that tournament, and she did. I don't know if they took anybody from that tournament last year and actually kept them in NXT except for Kairi Sane. So hopefully this is just like a tournament, and yes, they're going to keep the person who actually wins the tournament, but I'm hoping that they actually find some more women's talent from the tournament, because I know a lot of people are coming in from other organizations, indies, other countries, all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of hoping that they actually take somebody from this tournament and actually put them as a star role in at least NXT for a little bit and then have them come up in WWE. I don't know how many people were actually at the ones last year, but moving on here, the Observer notes that Vince McMahon called a meeting at Smackdown, and that's when he fired Big Cass. Sports Illustrated is saying personal conduct issues are to blame for his release, notably drinking on the European tour and having a bad attitude while doing so, but not being very public about it, and also being very public about it. Lastly, WWE was apparently impressed with Cass and how he performed at Money in the Bank, but his issues were too much to save him from being released. Jason Jordan is expected to make his return to WWE at any time, and per Wrestling Insider, William Regal will be back this week on NXT. And then also Ronda Rousey is expected to get involved in the Raw women's title match at Extreme Rules. A Braun Strowman Kevin Owens steel cage match will be added to this card too, says WrestlingNews.co. And WWE official Twitter account recently followed Matt Jackson, sparking renewed speculation about the company's pursuit of the Young Bucks. And local ABC affiliate KSAT in San Antonio is promoting AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe in a WWE title match and Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the September 16th Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. While there was interest from WWE, Eli Drake has re-signed with Impact Wrestling. I don't really care about Impact Wrestling, so I'm not going to talk about that. But so far, it looks like hopefully some of these rumors satisfy you when it comes to what happened to Big Cass. I know a lot of people are interested, and I'm interested too, so I'm glad I can read it and figure out what happened. That was a big deal, and that was kind of a shock. I was actually really impressed with Big Cass, but I had a feeling that he did have a bad attitude when it came to wrestling, period. Enzo Amore was the same way, and so I had a feeling that maybe Cass was the same way too. I was hoping that he wasn't, but it turns out that I was wrong. But that's going to do it for our wrestling recap for the week, guys. We'll go ahead and cut it off there. Sorry if this is so long, but we'll come back on next week. And so thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and share and subscribe to this audio. I won't even say video because it's not really a video. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think of Big Cass's release. Let us know who you think is going to fight against Brock Lesnar at the next pay-per-view, and when you think he's going to actually wrestle again. We'll see what actually happens. But thanks a lot for listening, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye.